pee on the lawn in his pajamas, and his wife would go running after him. No! So while he was having his weirdo time, his son took over, and his son only wanted to party. And he was a really bad prince, and he was a really horrible king. When the king died in 1820, he took over. And you can see what George Cruikshank, the caricatures, thought of him. He's kind of big and fat and stupid and ugly. And this is his party zone. He almost bankrupted the entire English treasury building his playground in Brighton, England for himself. And it's called the Royal Pavilion. So, when you have power and money and you're stupid, bad combination. You waste things. A little later, Queen Victoria becomes the queen. The Regents started ruining England for England, and then when Queen Victoria was coronated in 1837, she ushered in a completely new period, and she turned, let's say, the little empire of England into the grandest British empire ever. In 1901, when Queen Victoria died, England, little England, occupied a quarter of the entire planet. And England is tiny. It's like the size of New Jersey. So she had amazing power. But she was actually very humble. She never wanted to go out in public. She never wanted to show any magnificence until it was demanded of her. And this is pretty much how she dressed. And you can see she is she's a very pious person. Buckingham Palace was built by the regent, not by Queen Victoria, but eventually became the official residence of the royal family of England. Today, they still live there. They're descendants of Queen Victoria. Her son, King George V, her grandson, George V, he had some problems with the empire. Anybody know what the major areas that England occupied in the world were, besides England? India. What was their treatment of India? How did they treat the Indians? Amazingly? Good or bad amazingly?
Bad.
Yeah, really bad. They conquered India, and they acted like India was uppity in trying to defend themselves as an independent group of culture. So they kept suppressing and suppressing and suppressing. And at one point, the British put a tax on salt so that you could not get salt, which is necessary for human health, unless you pay a tax, which most Indians couldn't afford. So it started really crippling the Indian people. So at one point in 1930, a person who saw the injustice of British rule and just injustice in general, I don't know if you know that Gandhi was originally a lawyer in South Africa, but he eventually came back. Oops, I have a trigger finger here. Put that down. He came to India to work on saving his own country, and eventually he led a peaceful protest down to the sea. He was followed by thousands of people, and they had such an effect on British attitude toward India that the Indians caved in. And Gandhi actually was responsible for the British leaving India. And you can see that Gandhi was this little skinny guy with no teeth, but powerful as a personality. And George V was the king that was unfortunately the one that had to suffer through Gandhi's peaceful protests and India's empire shrinking. They're related. They're very related. They're cousins. The never-ending saga of imperial France. France has empires, it has kingdoms, it has emperors, it has democratic republicans, as in a republic of France as opposed to an empire. And they keep going back and forth. The first most powerful king was very humble, very poor, Louis XIV.
Sarcasm.
Very sarcastic. This is one of his favorite poses by Hyacinthe Rigaud. And just to show you how really humble he was, he lived in the Louvre. What's the Louvre? It's one of the biggest art museums in the world, right? Well, it was originally the residence of the kings of France. And it wasn't quite good enough for Louis XIV. He wanted to move out to the country because he liked the weather better, more open spaces, so he thought he'd build... There was a hunting lodge that the kings used to go to with like 10 of their closest friends to go hunting in the country. And Louis started going there, just like all the kings, and he said, this is a nice place, let's expand the shack a little bit. So he took the little shack and he expanded a little bit. And he created Versailles. Versailles has the largest gardens in the world. There used to be 3,500 fountains at Versailles. Unbelievably huge. And this is one of the gardens. Just, it's like you'd go back there with your little bench and you'd drink your tea. It's just a little humble garden.
Very modest.
This is called the Hall of Mirrors. Louis XIV built this magnificent Versailles because he wanted people to think that he glows more than the sun. In fact, his nickname was the Sun King. So this is a Hall of Mirrors that's supposed to be blinded by Louis XIV's presence as he walks through. Louis XVI, you know what happened to him? He's the French Revolution king that got his head cut off because he refused to cave into democratic wishes of the French people. So emperors don't always fare so well. This is the coronation of Napoleon. The French Revolution deposed an emperor because he was unfair. He was imbalanced. And who did they put on the throne? Napoleon. So they put on a president, and then he was replaced by an emperor. Weird. France is weird. Here are two images of Napoleon. Real Napoleon on the right in his study. You know how big Napoleon was, what he looked like? He was 5'2", chubby, balding, not that good looking. Look at the imperial portrait by Ingres of Napoleon. He's painting what he feels Napoleon represents, not what Napoleon looks like. And Napoleon was very charismatic and very powerful and very paranoid, like all emperors are. And just to show you how the French have pretty much matured over the years, this is the Siamese delegation, represent the Thai Empire, or the Siamese Empire, coming to visit the French emperor. Who's more superior in their own mind? The French think they're absolutely superior to these Asian monkeys, that's what they call them. And they made them crawl up to them and kiss their feet. Unbelievable. These are other emperors. More modern. Not political, but sure full of money. John D. Rockefeller on top left. Andrew Carnegie, center. Cornelius Vanderbilt. Henry Ford. And then, of course, these two modern emperors, Stephen Jobs and Bill Gates. I mean, empires are not restricted to politics. I would connect them to art by saying that Bill Gates collects a lot of beautiful art. Unfortunately, he hides it away in his castle, and no one gets to see it but him. But some would say that Stephen Jobs, being the spearhead behind the iPad, is not only technological, but it verges on artistic creativity. So these two emperors, in a way, are very much connected to what creativity is all about in the modern world. And I'll just show you a couple of popular culture empires, and I'll go. Cleopatra, there's Elizabeth Taylor in the movie, the biggest bomb in Hollywood history, financially. And that's an actual statue of the Egyptian prince Rapotep and his wife Nofret. So you can see where movie makers actually use art history to create the characters in their movies. The most evil empire of all time! The Sith Emperor and Lord Vader. Popular culture loves empires because we like to hate them. And finally, the Mummy, of course. This is Jet Li playing Qin Shi Huang. I don't know where he got all these magical powers from, but he sort of looks like the Emperor of China there, doesn't it? So, they do their best. They look at art history, they create images for the movies, they try to make them authentic, and then, of course, they create a story around that. It has nothing to do with reality, but it's lots of fun.